Dreams, Faith, and Prophecies. The story of Daniel. Have you ever wondered if dreams could be a way God communicates with you? What does it mean when a dream feels so vivid that it seems real? Today, we embark on an extraordinary journey into one of the Bible's most profound mysteries through the story of Daniel. Known as the man who could interpret dreams and solve enigmas, Daniel deciphered not only the dreams of his time, but also future prophecies that remain significant today. Among these, he interpreted a terrifying dream that God had revealed to King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon, a dream that haunted the king night after night. Every evening, Nebuchadnezzar was plagued by the same vivid and troubling dream. It left him restless, drenched in sweat and unable to sleep. Yet, when his magicians and wise men failed to reveal or explain the dream, Daniel stepped forward with a calm conviction. Beyond being an interpreter of dreams, Daniel was a prophet of vision and faith, standing firm against kings and even lions. His unwavering trust in God sustained him and his friends through immense trials, starting from the time they were taken captive from Jerusalem to serve in Babylon. Daniel and his companions, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, were noble young men of exceptional intellect and appearance. Chosen to serve in the royal court, they were trained for 3 years in the literature and language of Babylon. As part of their training, they were offered the king's rich food and wine. However, Daniel resolved not to defile himself and proposed a simple test. For 10 days, he and his friends would eat only vegetables and drink water. Despite initial hesitation, the chief official granted their request. At the end of the trial, the young men appeared healthier and stronger than their peers who indulged in the royal delicacies. This divine favor not only set them apart physically, but also enhanced their wisdom and understanding. God granted Daniel an extraordinary ability to interpret dreams and visions, a gift that would soon be tested. After their training, King Nebuchadnezzar personally assessed all the young men, finding none as wise as Daniel and his friends. But the peace of the royal court was soon shattered by the king's recurring dream. In his vision, he saw a massive statue made of different materials: gold, silver, bronze, iron, and clay. Suddenly, a stone not cut by human hands struck the statue, shattering it into dust. The stone then grew into a mountain that filled the whole earth. Unable to understand the dream, Nebuchadnezzar summoned his magicians and astrologers, demanding not only the interpretation but also the dream itself. When they confessed their inability to fulfill such an impossible request, the king, in his rage, ordered their execution. This decree also endangered Daniel and his friends. However, Daniel calmly sought an audience with the king, requesting time to seek the dream's meaning from God. That night, God revealed the mystery to Daniel in a vision. Overwhelmed with gratitude, Daniel praised God, acknowledging his wisdom and power. When brought before Nebuchadnezzar, Daniel accurately described the dream and its meaning. The statue, he explained, represented a succession of kingdoms, starting with Babylon as the golden head. Each material symbolized a future kingdom, each inferior to the last. The stone represented God's eternal kingdom, which would ultimately crush all human empires and endure forever. Nebuchadnezzar was awestruck. Falling prostrate before Daniel, he declared, "Surely your God is the God of gods and the Lord of kings." He rewarded Daniel with great honors, making him governor of Babylon and chief among the wise men. At Daniel's request, his friends were also elevated to high positions. Despite these moments of divine intervention, Nebuchadnezzar's pride led him to build a colossal gold statue, demanding that all bow before it. When Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego refused, the enraged king ordered them into a fiery furnace. Yet as the flames roared, Nebuchadnezzar saw 4 figures walking unharmed within the fire, the fourth resembling a divine being. Astonished, he called the 3 men out, declaring their God to be supreme and issuing a decree that no one speak against him. Later, Nebuchadnezzar experienced another prophetic dream, this time of a great tree that provided shelter to all. However, a heavenly voice decreed the tree be cut down, leaving only a stump. Daniel explained that the dream symbolized the king's impending fall from power due to his arrogance. For 7 years, Nebuchadnezzar would live as a wild animal until he acknowledged God's sovereignty. True to the prophecy, the king's pride led to his downfall, but his eventual repentance restored him to even greater glory. Daniel's story didn't end there. He later received visions of future kingdoms and events, including a ram with 2 horns representing the Medes and Persians, and a goat symbolizing Greece under Alexander the Great. These visions foretold the rise and fall of empires, the actions of future kings, and the ultimate triumph of God's kingdom. Through it all, Daniel remained steadfast in his faith, serving as a reminder of God's sovereignty and the eternal hope found in his promises. The writing on the wall and the visions of Daniel? In the grandeur of Babylon, King Belshazzar held a lavish feast for 1,000 of his nobles, using sacred vessels taken from the temple in Jerusalem to drink wine. As they reveled, they praised their gods of gold, silver, bronze, iron, wood, and stone. Suddenly, the merriment was interrupted by something extraordinary. A hand, disembodied and mysterious, appeared and began writing on the wall of the palace, illuminated by the flicker of a lampstand. The sight filled Belshazzar with terror. His face turned pale, his knees shook uncontrollably, and his confidence crumbled. The mysterious writing baffled everyone. The king summoned all his magicians, astrologers, and wise men, but none could decipher the meaning. In the midst of the commotion, the Queen Mother recalled Daniel, a man of unmatched wisdom and insight who had served during the reign of Nebuchadnezzar. Daniel was summoned to the king's court. Though now advanced in age, he carried the same calm and clarity that had set him apart in his youth. Belshazzar promised Daniel riches and power, offering to clothe him in purple, adorn him with a gold chain, and make him the 3rd highest ruler in the kingdom if he could interpret the writing. But Daniel, unmoved by these rewards, replied that the gifts could be given to someone else. Nevertheless, he agreed to reveal the meaning of the inscription. Before interpreting the words, Daniel reminded the king of Nebuchadnezzar's pride and downfall. He recounted how Nebuchadnezzar had been driven to madness until he acknowledged God's sovereignty. Daniel rebuked Belshazzar for failing to learn from his predecessor's mistakes. Instead, Belshazzar had arrogantly defiled sacred temple vessels and exalted himself above the true God. Daniel then explained the meaning of the cryptic words written on the wall: Mene, Mene, Tekel, Parsin. He revealed that Mene signified that God had numbered the days of Belshazzar's reign and brought it to an end. Tekel meant the king had been weighed on the scales and found wanting. Finally, Parsin declared that the kingdom would be divided and given to the Medes and Persians. Although shaken by the prophecy, Belshazzar honored his promise. He ordered that Daniel be clothed in purple, a gold chain placed around his neck, and his new status as the 3rd highest ruler proclaimed. Yet the judgment came swiftly. That very night, while the Babylonian elites celebrated without concern, King Cyrus of Persia and his forces, led by Darius the Mede, infiltrated the city. By diverting the Euphrates River and slipping through carelessly guarded gates, they captured Babylon with little resistance. Belshazzar was killed, and the Babylonian Empire fell, fulfilling Daniel's prophecy to the letter. The Medes and Persians divided the kingdom, with Darius assuming rule. Recognizing Daniel's wisdom and integrity, Darius appointed him as one of 3 chief administrators over 120 satraps who governed the provinces. Daniel distinguished himself so greatly that Darius planned to place him over the entire kingdom. This drew the envy and hatred of other officials who schemed to bring about his downfall. Unable to find any fault in Daniel's conduct, they devised a plan targeting his faith. They convinced Darius to issue a decree forbidding anyone to pray to any god or human other than the king for 30 days. The penalty for disobedience was being thrown into the lion's den. Unaware of their true motives, Darius signed the decree, making it an irrevocable law of the Medes and Persians. Despite the threat, Daniel remained steadfast. As was his custom, he knelt in prayer 3 times a day with the windows of his room open toward Jerusalem, giving thanks to God. The conspirators seized this opportunity, catching him in the act and reporting him to the king. Darius, deeply distressed and realizing he had been manipulated, sought desperately to save Daniel. However, the law could not be revoked, and Daniel was thrown into the lion's den. As the stone sealing the den was placed, Darius expressed his hope that Daniel's God would deliver him. That night, the king fasted and rejected all entertainment, unable to sleep. At dawn, he rushed to the den, calling out anxiously, "Daniel, servant of the living God, has your God, whom you serve continually, been able to rescue you?" To his amazement, Daniel responded that God had sent an angel to shut the lions' mouths. Daniel emerged unharmed, as he had been found innocent before both God and the king. The conspirators who plotted against Daniel were thrown into the den, along with their families, and the lions overpowered them. In awe of the miracle, Darius issued a proclamation declaring that the God of Daniel was the living God, whose kingdom and dominion would endure forever. As Daniel aged, his faith and wisdom only grew deeper. He was granted visions of the future, including a dream of 4 great beasts rising from the sea, representing successive earthly kingdoms. Despite their power, these kingdoms would eventually fall, making way for the eternal dominion of God. In one vision, Daniel saw a figure like a son of man coming with the clouds of heaven, who was given everlasting authority and glory by the Ancient of Days. Through these revelations, Daniel was reminded of God's ultimate sovereignty and justice. Earthly empires would rise and fall, but God's kingdom would remain unshakable. Daniel's visions not only provided hope to him, but also to future generations, affirming that the faithful would triumph in the end. His legacy as a prophet, dream interpreter, and servant of God has inspired countless believers. If you're intrigued by the story of Daniel, you'll find another incredible account of faith and dreams in the story of Joseph of Egypt. Discover how Joseph's God-given gift of dream interpretation took him from slavery to becoming the governor of Egypt by clicking here. Thanks for watching. Keep sharing, keep exploring.